2 years. That's how long it's been since I ended things with her. 2 years since I finally got the guts to walk away. We've been through a lot more than most relationships. A lot of love, a lot of pain, and a whole lot of broken promises. I'd like to say I was happy after the breakup, but who's really ever happy after something like that? Still, I had peace. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe. So, imagine my surprise when I woke up to a notification on my phone. Hey, we need to talk. It was her. Again. I ignored it at first. The first few times she tried to reach out, I figured she was just checking in, maybe she needed closure or wanted to rekindle some old flames. But, after the third or fourth attempt, I realized it wasn't just a simple "I miss you" or "can we be friends" kind of thing. There was something more. Something unsettling. And then, the message came. The one that made my heart race, my hands shake, and my blood run cold. It was late. The kind of late where everything feels too quiet, and your thoughts echo louder than they should. I hadn't expected a message from her at that hour, but there it was, staring at me on my phone screen. The text read, "You better find your God now, because I'm going to fucking kill you." At first, I thought it was a joke. I mean, I've heard people say some pretty messed up things in my time, but this? This was different. There was no humor, no hidden meaning. Just cold, raw hostility. And I didn't know what to do. The words kept replaying in my head. She had always been a little intense, sure. But this wasn't like her. Not the girl I knew. This was someone else. Someone dangerous. I tried to brush it off at first, telling myself it was just her lashing out, maybe the breakup hit her harder than I thought. But deep down, I couldn't ignore it. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I should have been scared, right? I mean, who wouldn't be? But I wasn't just scared. I was confused. Angry. Sad. The woman I once loved had just threatened me. And I didn't know what that meant for me, for us, for everything. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was racing, replaying every moment of our relationship. The good times, the bad times, and everything in between. Was this just a culmination of all the pain we had caused each other? Had I pushed her too far? I'd always been the kind of person to take responsibility for my part in things, but this was beyond that. This was something else. For the next few days, I didn't hear from her. Nothing. I thought maybe it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing, a heat-of-the-moment text she regretted. But then it happened again. Another message. This time, no threats, just more manipulation. The kind of words that made you doubt your reality. "I don't want to hurt you. I just need you to listen." I didn't reply. I wasn't going to get sucked back into that cycle. I had spent too long getting over everything, too long rebuilding my life. But the fear still lingered. I found myself looking over my shoulder when I went out, checking my locks twice before bed, jumping at every unfamiliar sound. I hadn't been this scared in a long time. She was always the unpredictable one, but this felt different. The anger in her messages, the intensity, the way she just seemed to know how to push every one of my buttons. She was trying to get under my skin again, and it was working. I couldn't let it, though. I refused to let it. So I did what any rational person would do. I started blocking her on everything. Social media, email, my phone. I'd had enough. But that wasn't the end. About a week after I blocked her, I thought I had finally escaped. No more texts, no more weird threats, just silence. I could breathe again. I was going back to normal, or at least what passed for normal in my life after everything we'd been through. But then, I came home from work one evening, tired and ready to collapse into bed, and there she was. Standing on my front porch. I froze for a moment, disbelief hitting me like a ton of bricks. My mind raced to piece together what the hell was happening. How did she find me? I hadn't given her my new address. I hadn't even told her where I worked. But there she was, looking almost the same except her eyes. There was something off about her eyes. Wild. Unhinged. Like she hadn't slept in days, and the weight of her emotions had finally cracked her. I wanted to ask her what the hell she was doing here, but the words wouldn't come. "Let me in," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to talk to you." I shook my head, the anger rising in me like a tide. No. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't going to open the door and let the storm back in. I had learned that lesson the hard way. But she wasn't having it. She started banging on the door, screaming now, her voice rising in pitch and intensity. It wasn't just anger anymore. There was panic in her voice. Desperation. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't just let her stay out there, but I couldn't let her in either. So I stood there, paralyzed, as she continued to shout. I couldn't escape her. Not even in my own damn home. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, listening to her pound on my door, her voice trembling with every shout. I could hear the desperation, the brokenness in her tone. It wasn't the woman I had known, the one who could turn on charm like a switch, but someone else entirely. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I cracked open the door, just enough for her to see my face. I didn't invite her in. I didn't even move to let her close, but I needed to see her up close. Needed to understand what was going on in her head. What the hell do you want? I asked, my voice strained with a mixture of anger and confusion. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time, her eyes wide and unfocused. She wasn't the same woman I once loved, this was someone else, someone on the edge. I just need you to understand, she whispered. I need you to know what you did to me. Her voice cracked, and she took a shaky step forward. I held my ground, the door still between us. What I did to you? You're the one who. Don't, she snapped, cutting me off. Don't act like you don't know. You think you walked away clean? You think you left me behind, but you're wrong. I can't just forget what you did. I wasn't sure what she was talking about anymore. What did she think I did? She was the one who'd hurt me time and time again, but now it felt like the blame was being shifted back to me, and I wasn't going to take it. You need to leave, I said, the words coming out with more force than I expected. Now. Her face twisted in anger. You don't get it. You never got it. She backed away, but only a few steps. I can't let you go so easily. Not after everything we've been through. Her words hit harder than I expected. Was this it? Was she finally acknowledging everything that had happened between us, all the hurt she'd caused me? Or was she just playing the same twisted game? I couldn't figure it out, but one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her pull me back in. I had to protect myself emotionally, physically. But the worst part? I didn't know if I could. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep at night. Every little noise set me on edge, and every time I checked my phone, I was half expecting to see another message from her. But nothing came. She seemed to disappear, like a ghost, vanishing from my life again. And in some ways, that felt worse than the confrontation. At least when she was yelling on my doorstep, I knew what was going on. But when the silence returned, it felt like she was just biding her time, waiting for the right moment to strike. I tried to convince myself it was over. I tried to convince myself she was just some lingering ghost from the past that I had finally shut out. But I knew better than to think it would end like that. And then, just as I was beginning to regain some normalcy, I got the phone call. It was late at night, around 11:30 p.m. The phone rang, and I didn't recognize the number. My gut told me not to pick it up, but of course, I did. The voice on the other end was distorted. It was her, but it wasn't. I'm not done with you, the voice said. It wasn't her exact tone, but I recognized the bitterness in her words. You'll never be free. I will never let you go. The line went dead. I stared at the phone for a long time, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Was she watching me? Was she out there somewhere, lurking? The fear crept back in, gnawing at my insides. I thought blocking her on everything had stopped it, but clearly, it had only just begun. It felt like I had entered some twisted game, and I was playing by her rules. And with every turn, I was losing. The next few weeks were a blur of paranoia. I couldn't stop looking over my shoulder, couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It felt like every moment I had of peace was shattered by this creeping, gnawing sense of dread. I stopped going out after dark, avoided quiet areas, and even made sure my car was parked in well-lit spots. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was just the aftermath of the situation, that I was reacting too strongly. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. This wasn't just emotional damage from a toxic relationship. No, this felt more like I was being hunted. It was hard to concentrate on anything, work, friends, even simple hobbies. I couldn't escape the constant buzzing in my head. Every time my phone vibrated, I froze. Every time someone knocked on the door, my heart skipped a beat. One afternoon, while I was at work, my colleague dropped by my desk with a concerned look on his face. "Hey, man, you okay? You seem out of it lately." I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to say it was nothing, that I was fine, but that would be a lie. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind," I muttered. "You sure? Because, your car is parked across the street, and I saw someone standing outside near it a few minutes ago. Didn't look like anyone you know." My stomach dropped. I didn't have to ask who it was. I knew. I knew it was her, or at least someone she had sent. I went home that night in a haze, my thoughts spiraling. The feeling of being trapped, unable to escape the past, was suffocating. What was I supposed to do? How could I escape this? How could I move on when she had made it so clear she wasn't going to let me go? And the worst part? I realized I wasn't sure if I even wanted her to. That feeling, that sick, twisted sense of longing mixed with dread, was the hardest thing to confront. Was I afraid of her, or was it something deeper? Had I let her get under my skin all over again? It wasn't just the fear anymore. It was everything. The confusion, the anger, the hurt. The constant, gnawing sense of being stuck in a situation I didn't know how to escape. I was losing control, and it was terrifying. I tried to go through the motions, work, errands, normal stuff, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was building up. I was unraveling, slowly but surely, and I could feel myself nearing a breaking point. One evening, I came home to find something I wasn't prepared for. My mailbox had been tampered with. The letter inside was just a piece of paper, no return address, no name. The handwriting was hers, unmistakably. It was short, simple, but it hit me like a punch to the gut. "You know I won't stop. I'll get you back. You'll see." I felt my stomach twist into knots as I read the words over and over again. What did she mean by that? What was she planning? I had no idea, but I knew that I couldn't just sit around and wait to find out. I spent the next few days trying to take action, something, anything. I went to the police, but they didn't seem to take the threat seriously enough. Sure, they filed a report, but they didn't exactly rush to make it a priority. I felt dismissed, as though my safety wasn't as important as I thought it should be. I started to feel like I was alone in this. No one understood what I was going through. My friends told me I was overreacting. "It's just a few texts," they said. "She probably doesn't mean it." But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Was I being paranoid, or was she truly capable of what she said? Was she capable of following through on the threats? I didn't know. And that uncertainty was worse than any threat she could make. I had no idea where this was going, but one thing was certain, I was going to have to confront her. Again. And this time, it wasn't going to be the same. I couldn't keep running. I couldn't keep running. I was sick of feeling like a prisoner in my own life. It wasn't just the fear anymore, it was the constant weight of it, hanging over me like a storm cloud that wouldn't dissipate. I had tried ignoring her, blocking her, going to the authorities. Nothing worked. So, I made a decision, it was time to confront her. Head on. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing I was still thinking about her, still letting her control my life. But I couldn't keep pretending it was okay. The stakes had gotten too high. I had to face it, face her. The place I chose was a public park, somewhere between neutral ground and a controlled environment. It was open enough that if things went sideways, I wouldn't be alone. I arrived first. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the green grass. My nerves were on edge, but I tried to steady myself. I wasn't going to back down this time. And then, she showed up. She didn't look like the person I thought I'd see. Gone was the frantic, desperate woman who had been at my door weeks ago. Instead, she was eerily calm, almost too calm. Her face was unreadable, but I could feel the tension in the air between us. She stopped a few feet away, her eyes scanning me as if she was seeing me for the first time. It was unsettling. "You showed up," she said flatly, her voice carrying no hint of the rage from before. "Yeah, I did," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "So let's talk. What do you want?" She tilted her head slightly, almost as if she were studying me. I want you to understand what I've been through. What you did to me. You don't get it, do you? I wanted to argue, to tell her how much she had hurt me, how much I had sacrificed. But I didn't. I just let her talk. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about her, and I needed to hear it. I didn't just lose you, she continued, her voice dropping lower. I lost everything. I was broken, and you just walked away like nothing happened. You think it was easy for me? You think I just let it go? The words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. Part of me wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to fix it all, but I knew better. I knew better. I'm sorry for what you went through, I said, my voice quieter now. But that's not on me anymore. You need to move on. I have. It's over. Her eyes flickered with something. Hurt? Anger? I couldn't tell, but she didn't say anything for a long time. Then, finally, she spoke again. You think I can just forget you? Forget all of this? Her voice cracked. You're not getting it, are you? I'm not going anywhere. Not until you feel it. What I felt. It hit me then. She wasn't here to make peace. She wasn't here for closure. She was still playing the same game, and I had just walked right into it. I could feel the shift in the air, the tension, the unspoken promise of something more. Her words lingered like a dark cloud, thick with unresolved anger and unresolved emotions. I realized in that moment that the conversation wasn't going to end the way I thought. She wasn't looking for understanding or closure. She was looking for retribution. I didn't come here for closure, she said, stepping closer. Her voice was steady now, almost cold. I came here because you need to feel the pain I've been through. I came here because I can't just walk away. Not after everything. I felt a chill run down my spine, a creeping sense of danger that I couldn't shake. Something was off about her. This wasn't the woman I once knew. This wasn't the person I had loved, or at least, the version of her I thought I loved. She was like a stranger, someone whose bitterness and rage had consumed every ounce of her. I took a step back, instinctively. I wasn't sure what was coming, but the way she looked at me, almost like she was sizing me up, made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. You need to leave, I said firmly, my voice shaking a little more than I wanted it to. This is done. You have to move on. I'm not doing this anymore. She just stared at me, her lips curling into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You think it's that easy? You think you can just walk away and everything will be fine? No, I'm not done with you. You don't get to just walk away and pretend you didn't destroy everything. Before I could react, she took a sharp step forward, her hand flying out to grab my arm. Her grip was tight, almost too tight, and I could feel her nails digging into my skin. The aggression in her touch made my blood run cold. Let go, I snapped, jerking my arm back. She didn't release me immediately. Instead, her gaze locked onto mine with a wild intensity, her breath coming faster. You have no idea what you've done to me, she whispered, her voice almost pleading now, but it was laced with something darker. And I'm not going to let you forget. I'm not going to let you go. It was in that moment that I realized she wasn't just threatening me. She wasn't just angry. She was consumed by something much deeper: obsession, fixation, and maybe even a touch of insanity. She wasn't leaving until she got what she wanted. And right then, what she wanted was my fear. I didn't know how to get out of this. I didn't know how to escape the cage she had built around me. And in that moment, I felt more trapped than I ever had before. I could feel the panic rising in me as she held onto my arm, her grip tightening with every second. It wasn't just the physical pain that made my chest tighten, it was the sheer intensity of her presence. She was no longer the person I knew. This woman in front of me, this stranger, had no boundaries, no sense of what was too much. She wasn't leaving until she had taken something from me. Please, I said, my voice lower now, filled with a mix of fear and desperation. You need to let go. This isn't you. She didn't respond, her grip unwavering. Instead, she leaned in closer, her face inches from mine. Her breath was hot against my skin, and I could see the wildness in her eyes. I tried to pull away, but there was nowhere to go, nowhere to escape to. The park was empty, the fading light casting long shadows, and it felt like we were alone in the world. She had me cornered. Do you really think I can just let you go? She asked in a whisper, her voice trembling. It was like she was talking to herself as much as to me. You left me, like I meant nothing. I wanted to scream, to tell her she was wrong, that I didn't leave her because I didn't care. But there was no point. She had built her own reality, one where I was the villain, where my every action was twisted into something that only made her hurt more. I didn't want to hurt you, I said, my throat tight. I never wanted to hurt you. But this isn't love. This is obsession. She laughed, but it was a harsh, bitter sound, devoid of humor. You don't get it, do you? Love? This is what love looks like. This is what you made me into. You don't get to walk away from me. Her voice was rising again, and I could see the edge of something darker in her eyes, something that scared me more than I cared to admit. And then, in a split second of clarity, I realized what I had to do. I shoved her away. Not hard, but enough to break the grip she had on my arm. She stumbled back, her eyes wide with shock. I didn't give her a chance to recover. Without thinking, I turned and sprinted for the exit of the park. My heart was racing, my legs moving faster than they ever had before. I could hear her calling after me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. I wasn't going to be her captive anymore. I ran like I had never run before, the fear pushing me forward. It wasn't just the fear of her, it was the fear of everything she had done to my life. The weight of the years we'd spent together, the broken pieces of who I was, and the uncertainty of what she would do next. But for the first time in so long, I felt like I was free. And that was a feeling I hadn't had in 2 years. I didn't stop running until I was miles away from the park, my chest heaving, my breath ragged. My mind was racing a mile a minute. Was she still chasing me? Was she following me, waiting for me to let my guard down? I didn't know. I didn't care. All I knew was that I couldn't go back. I couldn't face her again. Not like that. Not with the way she had completely unraveled in front of me. That night, I locked myself in my apartment, every light on, every window closed. I set the deadbolt on the chain, like that would somehow protect me from whatever she was capable of. I stayed up for hours, my mind playing the same scene over and over again, the terror in her eyes, the desperation, the darkness that had crept into her voice. And then, the silence. It was unsettling, almost suffocating. She didn't call. She didn't text. There were no strange letters, no mysterious knocks on my door. It was like she had disappeared, vanished into thin air. At first, I thought it was a relief. Maybe she was done, maybe she had finally let go of whatever twisted obsession had been driving her. But the silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like the calm before a storm. I didn't know what was worse, having her in my life, or having her out of it, still looming in the background, threatening to show up again when I least expected it. I threw myself into work, into anything that would distract me from the unease eating away at me. But nothing worked. The nagging sense of impending doom stayed with me, lurking in the corner of my mind, never quite going away. For a few weeks, nothing happened. And just as I started to breathe a little easier, just as I began to think I was safe, I got another message. This time, there was no anger, no threats, just a simple sentence. You'll never be free of me. I stared at the message for a long time, the words sinking into my skin like a poison. It wasn't a threat anymore, it was a statement. And I knew then, I wasn't free. Not yet. She wasn't done with me. I just didn't know what she was going to do next. The message hit me harder than I'd expected. It wasn't just the words, it was the finality in them. You'll never be free of me. It wasn't just some angry threat anymore. It was her way of marking her territory, of reminding me that no matter what I did, she would always be there, lurking in the shadows of my life. I knew I couldn't ignore it this time. I couldn't just move on like everything was normal. I was back in that same cycle of fear and uncertainty, where every moment felt like I was walking on a razor's edge. I tried to tell myself that it was just a message, just a few words typed on a screen, but it wasn't that simple. I had learned the hard way that words from her carried weight. They were never empty. I spent the next few days in a haze, barely sleeping, constantly checking my phone, and feeling like I was being watched. My anxiety spiraled. Every knock on my door felt like it could be her. Every car that passed by my apartment made my heart race. I couldn't escape the feeling that she was still in control. Work became unbearable. I couldn't focus on anything. My colleagues noticed. They asked if I was okay, and I gave them the same rehearsed answer, I'm fine. But I wasn't. I wasn't fine at all. I was terrified, and every day felt like I was losing a piece of myself. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the office, I decided I had had enough. I needed to take control of this. I couldn't let her keep holding this power over me. I reached out to a therapist, someone who could help me process the mess I was in. I needed professional help, someone to talk to untangle the mess of emotions and fears I had buried under the surface. I knew it wouldn't be an easy road, but it was the only option. I started seeing the therapist weekly. It wasn't instant relief, but slowly, I began to understand the hold she still had over me. It wasn't just her, it was the years we'd spent together, the trauma I had never really processed. I had let it fester, and it was poisoning my present. It was a long and painful journey, but as the weeks passed, I began to feel like I was gaining back pieces of myself. I was learning how to trust myself again, how to say no to her, even if she wasn't physically there. But I also knew I wasn't done. Not yet. I couldn't shake the feeling that, sooner or later, she would find a way to pull me back in. And when that happened, I would have to be stronger than I had ever been before. I had no idea what form it would take, but I knew one thing for sure, it wasn't over. Not yet. The months that followed were a strange mixture of progress and lingering fear. Therapy was helping, slowly but surely. I felt myself becoming more grounded, more centered. I started taking up old hobbies again, reconnecting with friends, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe without that constant sense of dread hanging over me. But that didn't mean I was out of the woods. The silence she had given me was unsettling, and every day that passed without a new message or threat made me more nervous than relieved. I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to show up, to make everything worse again. It wasn't that I was paranoid, it was that I knew her. I knew how she worked, how she had a way of slipping back into my life when I least expected it. And then, just when I thought I might actually have a chance at peace, it happened. It was a typical Tuesday evening. I had just wrapped up a long day of work and was lounging on my couch, mindlessly scrolling through my phone. I had a sense of calm, of control, but it didn't last long. My phone buzzed. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt the panic rise. It was a text from an unknown number. I opened it, almost afraid to see the words. But when I saw them, my heart skipped a beat. "You thought I was gone, didn't you?" I stood there, staring at the message, my mind going blank. The words were simple, but they hit like a punch to the gut. After all this time, after everything I had done to escape, she was back. And she wasn't done with me. My hands trembled as I typed a reply, the first thing that came to mind, "What do you want?" The response was quick. "You'll find out soon enough." I never let go, you should know that by now. I could feel my world crumbling again, piece by piece. The fear, the anger, the helplessness, all of it came rushing back in an instant. But this time, I wasn't the same person I had been the last time she came for me. I had fought hard to get to where I was. I had learned how to stand up for myself, how to set boundaries. I wasn't going to let her tear me apart again. But deep down, I knew I couldn't do it alone. I needed to make the right decisions this time. I needed to be smarter. Stronger. I reached out to the therapist again, and I made a plan. I wasn't going to be her victim anymore. I wasn't going to fall into the same patterns. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. But I also knew that what came next would be the biggest test of all. She was back. And now, I was going to have to face her, for good. The next few days were a blur. I tried to go about my life, but everything felt different. Every shadow felt like it could be her, every noise, every unexpected sound set me on edge. I knew she was out there, somewhere, waiting for the right moment to strike. I could feel the weight of her presence hanging over me like a storm cloud. But this time, I wasn't going to let her have the control. I wasn't going to let fear dictate my actions. I had spent too long letting her have power over me, too long hiding from the inevitable. I had to face her. I took a deep breath and made the decision to confront her once and for all. It wasn't going to be easy. I knew she wouldn't just let me go quietly. But I had learned enough in therapy to know that if I didn't set firm boundaries, if I didn't stand my ground, I would be lost in this cycle forever. I called the police. I told them everything, how she had threatened me, how she had shown up at my apartment before, how the harassment had escalated. They were more understanding this time, more willing to take action. They assured me they would have patrols near my place and that they would take the situation seriously. But I knew the most important part wasn't waiting for them to act. It was about taking control of my own story, refusing to let her manipulate me anymore. A few days later, I got another message from her. You think you're safe? You think you're in control? You'll never be free of me. I felt the familiar surge of fear, but this time, it didn't paralyze me. I wasn't going to let her win. I called her. I didn't even think about it. I just dialed the number from the message. She picked up after 2 rings, her voice sounding like nothing had changed. Hello, she said, almost sweetly, like we were still the same people we used to be. Enough, I said, my voice firm. I'm done. This stops now. There was silence on the other end for a long moment, and then she spoke, her voice quiet but dangerous. You don't understand, do you? You'll never be rid of me. I will always be a part of you. I took a steadying breath. No. You're wrong. I'm done. You don't get to control me anymore. I'm setting boundaries, and if you cross them, I'll take every step I can to protect myself. If you don't stop, I will make sure the police are involved in every way possible. I won't let you hurt me again. Her laugh on the other end was hollow, devoid of humor. You think you can make me stop? You don't know what I'm capable of. I stood my ground. I don't care anymore. I'm not scared of you. You can't break me. There was a long pause, and for a moment, I thought maybe she was done. Maybe, just maybe, this was the end. But then she spoke again, her voice colder, sharper than before. You think you've won? You're just a coward, hiding behind your boundaries. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The moment I hung up the phone, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years, peace. Real peace. I'd done it. I had faced her. I had taken control of my life. I had set the boundaries I needed to move forward. And this time, I knew I wouldn't let her take that away from me. I don't know if she'll ever truly be gone from my life. I don't know if she'll keep trying to crawl back into it. But I do know one thing, I'm stronger now. I'm not that man who was afraid of her anymore. And no matter what happens, I've learned something important, I am the only one who has the power to take back my life. No one else can do that for me. If you're in a similar situation, if someone is trying to control you, to take over your life, take control back. Set boundaries. Stand up for yourself. It's not easy, but it's the only way out. You're stronger than you think. You can break free. And don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise.